Nunavummun ukiutartummu tavvani iqalunnu. Alane tavvani iqatigigunartain narigassim. First off, unnusakkun everyone, I would like to welcome Prime Minister Carney to our beautiful capital city of Iqaluit. And I'm loving the atigi he's just wearing right now. Fits right in. So alene. We are very honored that you could come here to our beautiful territory for your first official domestic visit. Your presence demonstrates the true commitment to strengthening Canada's Arctic sovereignty and security. I'd also like to give a warm welcome to the Chief of Defence Staff, General Tungwasagwin, as well as the Minister of National Defence, my good friend Bill. Always great to have you here. There's many friends that are here joining us today. First, Commissioner Aria, Iqaluit, Mr. Obed, President of Inuit Taparikanatame, Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, Iqaluit, Jeremy Tongalo, President of Rikirtane Inuit Association, Mr. Akisu, as well as my Deputy Premier, Minister Gross, Minister John Main, as well as MLAs Ms. Brewster and Mr. Hicks. And most important as well, the incredible rangers that are here with us who are our eyes and ears of the Arctic. So we are facing an ever-changing political landscape, and the Arctic is once again on the spotlight. As Inuit, we have endured a great deal in the name of Canadian sovereignty. Canada's national identity as an Arctic nation was built on the backs of our communities. The Arctic plays a strategic geopolitical role. We are Canada's gateway to the Northwest Passage and a key player in terms of the circumpolar world. Our geographic, linguistic, as well as the cultural connection that we do have to Greenland also uniquely positions us as an opportunity for greater diplomatic presence in the Arctic, forging closer ties with our friends in this region. The commitments to NORAD's modernization and bolstering the presence of the Canadian Armed Forces presence in the Arctic are welcome initiatives. But my focus is on strong, resilient communities. That's the foundation of Canada's Arctic sovereignty and security. To ensure that our country remains as the true, strong, north and free, we need to support the people of the Arctic. Housing is a key to healthy, resilient communities. We need to secure the security of home to pursue an education, the safety of a house to succeed in a career. The government of Nunavut has done our part. We have built 3 times more homes at half the cost through strategic partnerships with Inuit development corporations. Now, the Government of Canada is signaling its commitment towards addressing Nunavut's long-standing housing crisis. I welcome these investments into our communities. We need more homes. Access to safe and dependable power is another pillar of thriving communities. These investments towards upgrading 4 power plants across the territory will ensure that we have the energy that we need to fuel our communities. But we need to do more than repair aging power plants. We need to continue to look forward to the future. The $20 million investment into the Iqaluit hydroelectric nation-building project signals a decisive move towards clean energy and self-sufficiency for Nunavut. This nation-building project will decrease Nunavut's carbon footprint, reduce our territory's reliance on diesel, and provide Nunavut's capital with renewable energy supply. Today's announcements shows unity in Nunavut and our readiness to work in partnership with the Government of Canada to address Canada's sovereignty and security. Earlier this month, President Iqaluit and I announced our intentions to be able to collaborate on a Made in Nunavut Arctic security and sovereignty strategy. We also declared our support for Inuit-led, Inuit-driven nation-building projects that could meet the community needs while also bolstering Canada's economy and addressing Arctic security and sovereignty. Nunavut has the critical minerals the world needs, and we are ready, and we are already home to one producing green iron here in the territory. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The government of Nunavut, Nunavut Tungavik, have called on the government of Canada to back Inuit-led nation-building initiatives that could be expedited as they have the backing of the regional Inuit associations as well as the local communities. There is certainty here in Nunavut. And unlocking Nunavut's economic potential, whether it's in critical minerals, energy, or fisheries, will not only benefit our territory, but it will also bolster the economic opportunities right across this country. This is because Nunavut relies on Canadian provinces in the south for materials, from lumber to steel to fuel. An investment in Nunavut means an investment in Alberta, Manitoba, Quebec, or Ontario. It is time to expand Canada's nation-building efforts in the north. Our vast Arctic regions and the third and longest coasts can no longer be seen as vulnerable. Prime Minister, thank you for your leadership. Let's continue to work together. I hope to welcome you here again for an announcement in the near future on these exciting investments of our joint notified nation-building initiatives in the Arctic that address Canadian sovereignty and security needs while unlocking the true economic potential the North has to offer. Projects such as the Arctic Security Corridor, the Kivadla Hydro Fiber Link, or the Iqaluit Deep Sea Port. Together, we could realize the true potential of Canada's Arctic.
Thank you so much, Premier. Et bonjour tout le monde. Before I begin my prepared remarks, I just think it's important to acknowledge the findings from the Prairies Green landfill in Winnipeg and express to the families of Mercedes, Myran, and Morgan Harris, and to everyone who loved these women, recognition of just how horrific it is to relive this tragedy over and over again. And I hope that this unfortunate events today begin to provide some of that closure that is needed. Monsieur le Ministre Blair, Général Carignan, Chef de l'État-Major, Monsieur le Premier Ministre, merci de vous joindre à moi aujourd'hui. I would also actually like, if I may, to acknowledge Commissioner Akeeagok, who welcomed me and the members of the G7 here a little more than a decade ago. And I have to say that it was the reality of being in Nunavut and being in the chamber and facing a need for, or a chamber and a body now led by Premier Akeeagok, PJ, a chamber that runs on consensus, and a G7 that prior to this did not have consensus and then began to develop, and I believe it was inspired by your example and by the example that exists here. So thank you. Thank you for welcoming me to the north, to the land of my birth, the land that's always helped and the people who have helped form my understanding of our great country, a country that has given me everything, my family, my educations, and my values. You know, Canada is strong when we recognize Indigenous peoples as the original stewards of this land, who remind us of the deep roots from which we grow and underscore the values to which we aspire. And this is one of the many reasons why my first official trip as Prime Minister is here in the Inuit Nunavut. Canada is strong when we build constructive nation-to-nation partnerships. And it's strong when we work with Inuit, Métis, and First Nations communities across the North and across the country. And that's why Canada's new government is taking action to protect the North, affirm our sovereignty, but to also develop our potential by investing over $250 million in reliable electricity and new affordable housing. Nous agissons pour développer le potentiel du Nord en investissant plus de 250 millions de dollars dans une électricité fiable et des logements abondants et abordables. This includes building and repairing over 570 homes, ensuring communities have access to safe and dependable power today, building renewable energy security for tomorrow, and in the process, creating more good, high-paying jobs across Nunavut. But as we take action to build a better future together, we must invest in Canada's North to defend our sovereignty. Arctic sovereignty is a strategic priority of our government. Recently, Minister Blair announced over $2.67 billion in investment in military facilities, including one here in Iqaluit. Récemment, le ministre Blair a annoncé un investissement de 2,67 milliards de dollars dans des installations militaires, dont une ici à Iqaluit, parce que les habitants du Nord et tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes attendent de nous que nous assurions leur sécurité. La sécurité de l'Arctique est une priorité stratégique de notre gouvernement. And today I'm announcing that our government will be working with our long-standing defense and security partners, Australia, to build a new long-range, over-the-horizon military radar system. This is an investment of more than $6 billion in the most advanced and efficient radar system. The over-the-horizon radar system will enable Canada to detect and respond to both air and maritime threats over our Arctic faster and from further away. It will, most fundamentally, keep all Canadians safe. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce que mon gouvernement travaillera avec notre partenaire de longue date en matière de défense et de sécurité, l'Australie, afin d'élaborer une nouvelle technologie de radar transhorizon perfectionnée. Un investissement de plus de 6 milliards de dollars. En même temps, on renforce la présence des forces armées canadiennes pour dissuader, détecter et protéger l'Arctique et notre souveraineté. Nous allons investir près de 420 millions de dollars pour protéger notre souveraineté terrestre, aérienne et maritime grâce à une présence accrue, soutenue et permanente dans l'Arctique. We are strengthening the presence of the Canadian Armed Forces to detect, to defend, and deter, and to defend the Arctic and our sovereignty. We're committing nearly $420 million to protect that sovereignty with forces across land, air, and sea with greater sustained and year-round presence here in the Arctic. The world is changing. Our adversaries are increasingly emboldened. International institutions and norms that have kept Canada secure are now being called into question. And the United States priorities, our ally, our United States priorities, once closely aligned with our own, are beginning to shift. Our government recognizes that while Canada must be strong in our partnerships, particularly NORAD, and today's announcements will strengthen our commitment to NORAD, well, that is true. We cannot and should not look first to others to defend our nation. Today's announcement helps accomplish both those objectives. We are masters of our own house. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous. Nous contrôlons notre propre destinée. C'est une évidence pour moi, pour mon gouvernement et pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Canadians in these difficult times want solutions, not slogans. They want positive action, not anger. They want consensus, not commands. They want strength, not division. Canadians want a government that will fight for them, and our government will always do that. The announcements today will strengthen Arctic security. They'll bolster our partnerships with our closest allies. They'll build the North's economic potential and advance reconciliation with the Inuit, with First Nations and Métis. Canada is and will forever be an Arctic nation. As the Premier just said, this is the true North, strong and free. And Canada is strong, united, and sovereign. Thank you. Merci. And with that, we'll take questions.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Nous allons prendre une quinzaine de minutes de questions. We'll take about 15 minutes of question. First question. Please go ahead at the mic. Go ahead, Mercedes.
Hi, Prime Minister Carney. Mercedes Stevenson from Global News. You're announcing funding for the Arctic today, which is substantial, but was already planned and announced largely by your government in regards to the over-the-horizon radar system. You're coming back from visiting with your counterparts in France and in the UK, who are dramatically increasing defense spending. Why not take this opportunity to announce significant new money to defend Canada's north in light of the threats that we're facing? Well,
thanks for the question, Mercedes. I think the first thing is, if I may, reverse the order, which is what we're focused on is, as you would expect, delivering a more secure country, protecting Canadian people, and doing that in the best way possible. So, well, I'll call it the Arctic Radar Shield has been under development for some time. There has been a process led by the Minister of Defense, and I want to thank the Chief of the Defense Staff with important input, a long process to determine what is the best way to do that, both value for money for taxpayers, but very importantly as well, how can we implement something as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible? So after very long deliberation and analysis, we get to a point where the Australian system and the partnership we can strike with them responds to all of those priorities. And I was pleased to confirm that in a phone conversation this morning with Prime Minister Albanese of Australia. Securing Canada is an absolute strategic priority of this government. I'm under no illusions that well, let me put it more positively, we will need to do more. We will do it deliberately. We will do it in a way that gets effective value for money, that delivers true security, that is coordinated and reinforces with our partners. And so, yes, I fully expect that, and I've said this before, but I'll just reiterate it, if one looks towards percentages relative to GDP or absolute dollar figures, I expect that more will have to be placed for defense spending, and it will come sooner, but it will only come under circumstances that meet the types of tests of the announcement today, where they have maximum impact as quickly as possible.
In regards to the Northwest Passage, which multiple American administrations have not recognized Canada's sovereignty over, are you particularly concerned about the Northwest Passage in light of Donald Trump's comments about Canada's Arctic and his desire to defend it unilaterally without our consent?
Well, the Northwest Passage is Canadian sovereign. These are Canadian sovereign waters. These are internal waters to Canada, and we first and foremost need to take steps to assert that sovereignty in several ways. And one of the ways, and I had discussions with the Premier, we had discussions moments ago on exactly issues around how we develop communities and economic opportunities abutting the Northwest Passage. That's part of the way we will do this. How do we do that in a way that potentially has dual use, so it would also have military use and impacts? And these are priorities. And when the Premier says he looks forward to welcoming me back and the Minister of Defense back and the Minister of Industry back and the other ministers of the Crown back, he's right. These invitations will be taken up because these are absolute priorities of this government.
En français, c'était sur la portion de la menace américaine.
Les menaces américaines. Oui, j'ai dit, afin de commencer, le détroit de Nord-Ouest, passage de Nord-Ouest, ça c'est du territoire marin du Canada. Ça c'est clair. Ça c'est clair pour nous. Et il faut que nous renforcions notre souveraineté avec des investissements économiques et des investissements stratégiques.
Pouvez-vous dire aux Canadiens, M. Carney, aujourd'hui, s'il y a des dossiers ou des décisions où vous allez vous récuser au cabinet en raison de vos avoirs qui sont en fiducie, comme l'a fait, par exemple, Paul Martin à l'époque?
Une bonne question. Ce qui est sûr, qu'il y a une période de temps maintenant que nous pouvons prendre des décisions positives pour le Canada. Il faut avoir un resserrement budgétaire, un resserrement opérationnel guidé ou qui vont être soutenus par une augmentation de productivité. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle
je parle, juste pour être bien clair, je parle de vos avoirs personnels, de vos actifs.
Oh, mes actifs personnels. Oui. Oh, je m'excuse. Je m'excuse.
Que vous l'avez bien compris.
Comme M. Martin a fait, qu'est-ce qu'il a fait?
C'est que, est-ce que vous allez vous récuser? Are you going to recuse
oui, récuser. Ah oui. Je comprends. Je m'excuse. Je comprends maintenant. Pardonnez-moi. Oui, parce qu'on a des discussions, comme d'habitude. On fait une fiducie avec, mais avec le commissaire d'éthique, probablement il va créer des screens comme M. Martin a fait quand il était Premier ministre. Et nous avons fait des propositions en ce qui concerne cela.
Donc,
it's a decision for, if I may, question with respects to screens related to certain assets as assets go into a blind trust. These are decisions, of course, of the Ethics Commissioner. So, as you know, as you may recall, my assets have been put into a blind trust well in advance of the requirements, so they've been disposed. But what happens is that there's a discussion with the Ethics Commissioner for certain screens around certain issues, and that's a process that is underway. It's a natural process, and of course, it's part of the way our system works, and I very much respect the system, and those screens become public as they're developed.
Pourquoi ne pas le faire proactivement, peut-être?
C'est une question pour le commissaire d'éthique, mais par exemple, si quelque chose a un impact majeur pour Brookfield, ça c'est clair, c'est un screen. Hein. Mais on travaille rapidement. Je travaille rapidement en ce qui concerne des enjeux là. I'm working very as fast as I can. Recall that. And I didn't set these rules. They were set by a government of which Mr. Poilievre was a member, that the time horizon is measured in months. I'm working in, I worked in advance, actually, of becoming Prime Minister in terms of the disposals, and in the matter of days and weeks in terms of having these screens.
Next question.
Hi, Rob Gillies from Associated Press. You will have a call with President Trump in the coming days. What are your expectations for the president in that call?
I think, let me say a few things. The first is that the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Canada, but certainly the President of the United States has many responsibilities, and there are many issues. I can think of many geostrategic issues that the President is helping to lead on, and you can think of events most recently in with respect to the Houthis and all the way through to trade and other aspects. So there's a wide range of issues to be discussed when we do connect. With respect to trade, I look forward to, at the appropriate time, having a discussion as two sovereign nations that is comprehensive, not targeted at one issue.
Putin and Trump had a 90-minute call at least today. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, I mean, maybe I'll refer back to my previous answer, which is that there are a range of issues, and one of the issues that I discussed both with President Macron yesterday, Prime Minister Starmer last evening, discussed on the weekend with a series of leaders, is how to get Russia to be an active and willing participant in a ceasefire in Ukraine. So anything that the President can do to make that happen, and he's committed to make that happen, anything he can do to make that happen that respects the territorial integrity of Ukraine, that meets a series of other conditions that have rightly been set out by the government of Ukraine, I fully support.
We'll do last question, dernière question.
Prime Minister, hello. Martina Steves-Gridna for the New York Times.
Welcome.
Wow, to you too, sir.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much. My question is a little broader, pertains to my colleague's question. Your predecessor shared his assessment with the Canadian people and the world that President Trump's goals and motives in Canada were to economically crush the country in order to annex it. I know you've only been in power for a few days, but I'm sure you've had briefings and meetings. And I wonder, ahead of this phone call with President Trump, do you share Prime Minister Trudeau's assessment, or have you made your own personal assessment about what President Trump really wants from Canada?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think what President Trump wants, he wants several things. One is he wants to end the fentanyl crisis in the United States. I respect that. He wants good, high-paying jobs in America. He wants more investment in America. He wants repatriation of many American industries and firms to the United States. So, and I fully respect that. I think he will respect that as Prime Minister of Canada, I want to end the fentanyl crisis in Canada. I want to grow good, high-paying jobs in Canada. And of course, I want to protect with my colleagues and reaffirm and reinforce our sovereignty of all of Canada. So that's the starting point for the discussion.
Just listening closely to your answer, just...
Peut-être la dernière question et je peux faire un résumé. Oui.
Just listening closely to your answer previously, it sounded like you may be changing, and listening to what you said last night about the limits of retaliatory tariffs, for example. It sounds like maybe you are nuancing your strategy vis-a-vis President Trump by perhaps leaving trade talks to others. We know you have authorized these conversations to happen in Washington, D.C. as early as this week at USTR level. Are you going to be trying to focus more on positive things that you can talk about with President Trump?
I wouldn't necessarily have that characterization. What I'm saying is severalfold. The first, and I'll go back to where you started with your previous question, which is we are focused on building this economy. Today's announcement is, of course, about sovereignty, it's about protection, but it's also about building the economy here in Nunavut. We are going to build Canada out. Canada is strong, and it's going to get stronger. We can give ourselves more than anything that President Trump or other trade partner can take away. Okay? That's a basic point. And that if there is a misconception of that in the United States, I'm not saying the President has that misconception, but if there's a misconception of that, we are going to disabuse that misconception. We're going to grow this economy because that's good for Canadians, good for better for our future, and we can do it, and we're going to do it. In terms of discussions, what I'm saying is that there are a series of trade initiatives from the U.S. Such that they've called into question the validity of USMCA, since you're New York Times, how you would refer to it, USMCA. And that means that we should have a broader conversation about our commercial relationship, which also involves a conversation about our security relationship with the United States. So I'm less interested in reacting to every initiative, putting on the table that we want to have that broader conversation. It won't happen overnight. There's no magic one meeting that is going to unlock things. And of course, we have regular conversations with the U.S. on a variety of issues, but the big issues around trade are going to need to be taken more comprehensively, and they will be taken from a Canadian perspective, from a position of strength. We can take time. We're going to get stronger, and these initiatives are going to weaken them. Alors, your first question, afin de faire la traduction, sorry, in order to do the translation, remind me on the first one again? Yeah. I can hear you, though.
Okay,
I can hear you.
The first question was that your predecessor explained that his analysis of President Trump's motives was to economically crush Canada in order to annex it. Do you share that analysis?
Selon moi, je respecte Monsieur le Président Trump. Il a plusieurs objectifs. Premièrement, de mettre fin à la crise de fentanyl aux États-Unis. C'est le même pour moi ou pour nous ici au Canada. Deuxièmement, il veut créer des jobs, des bons jobs là aux États-Unis. C'est le même pour nous au Canada, mais pour les Canadiens et les Canadiens, évidemment. Alors, et notre économie est forte. Notre économie est forte. Ça, c'est clair. Et avec les investissements, comme les investissements que nous venons d'annoncer aujourd'hui, l'économie devient de plus en plus forte. Ça, c'est notre stratégie économique. Et quand les États-Unis, comme M. le Président, est prêt d'avoir des discussions sérieuses et compréhensives, nous sommes prêts. Nous sommes prêts maintenant de le faire. OK? D'accord. Je crois que ça suffit.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Great.
Thank you, sir.
It was almost over. Sorry, but sorry about that.
It's okay. TJ here at CBC North. Historically speaking, there's been a lack of investment in Nunavut. As a result, more than half of Nunavummiut are living in an overcrowded house, and they're also food insecure thanks to the astronomical cost of living in this territory. How can people in Nunavut trust you and your government after previous governments have said in the past a lot of words but delivered, comparatively speaking, little action? And how can things be different this time?
Yeah, no, I absolutely understand your question. And I think a couple of things. One, you build trust, if I may, you build trust with results and over time, and particularly if that lack of trust also reflects overpromise, underdeliver. So few things to start that process of building trust and reinforcing trust. First, you listen. You come, you sit down, actually come here, you sit down, you listen to the priorities, you respond to those priorities. Secondly, you make the time. You know, part of my role as Prime Minister is how do I allocate my time? So I allocate my time on my first official, if you will, trip within the country to come right here to Nunavut, because I know the importance of the economic challenges, the scale of those challenges, as well as the strategic importance. Third thing is, when you announce something, you follow up. You follow up and make sure that it's followed through. So we have a housing announcement in partnership with the territorial government. We will be following up to make sure as much as possible that the funds are dispersed on time, that the building is done, and as well, and this was part of our discussion earlier today, is as much as possible that the supply chain, if I can use that term, for the housing also draws on strengths, emerging strengths in this economy, for example, in the modular housing sector that is just beginning to be developed. So yeah, I recognize the issue. You build, you respond to it by delivering and delivering over time and showing the importance of being here. Thank you. Was there one other question or?
Yes, just one English
Yeah.
and French.
Hello. Mr. Carney, Macdonald Institute said that Canada is sleepwalking into Arctic irrelevance, and they're saying they think Arctic should become a reflex for the government. First of all, do you agree, and how do you think this should be done?
Well, a reflex is something you do unthinkingly. A strategic priority is something you do deliberately and you think through. This is a strategic priority. It's a strategic priority in defense. It's a strategic economic priority. You work in partnership. You work and you follow through. So the commitment is here. I mean, again, I'll refer to my answers previously to we have to deliver on those commitments. The commitments are here, but they're deliberate. They're thought through. They're informed. And that's the way we'll move forward, as opposed to a reflex, which I don't want to focus too much on the word, but something that doesn't rise to those standards. Okay?
Quickly in French.
Mathilde Servier, Radio-Canada. Vous annoncez une série d'investissements dans le Grand Nord. Vous êtes ici, vous dites, pour écouter les communautés.
Ouais.
À ceux qui répondent que ces investissements arrivent un petit peu à minuit moins une, qui arrivent un petit peu trop tard, qu'est-ce que vous répondez aux résidents du Nord qui ont ces préoccupations-là?
C'est aujourd'hui, c'est le moment. Il faut commencer. Il faut commencer maintenant. I mean, oui, il y a une histoire. Il y a des, c'est clair, il y a des gens qui sont déçus par rapport à l'action du gouvernement du fédéral. Mais nous agissons maintenant. On commence aujourd'hui et il faut continuer. D'accord, merci.
Merci beaucoup. C'est ce qui m'a fait la conférence de presse.
All right, take try it again.